Morning.
So, Ashley, to start us off with the Senate vote impending today on this bipartisan bill um, that was previously rejected by Republicans, kind of just let's open with what's on your mind and on your heart with this bill.
Yeah, thanks for asking. We're frustrated. We're really frustrated. I think if we think back to when this bill was being negotiated, there was a lot of different circumstances at play, right? The fear of Vladimir Putin and the war with Israel and Palestine. Those were the things that I think were balancing this need for border security. But we saw that that was voted on by itself. And now to circle back to border security only, and not have anything balance that out positively, for the immigrant communities here in the country and, the families that have been separated, it's just really frustrating to see that, again, promises broken. There are 1.1 million US citizens that are married to someone undocumented that can't progress through the legal immigration system. And once again, here's an opportunity where something positive can be done to protect our families. And it's just a total missed opportunity. And that's why we're calling on President Biden to do what he can for our families now.
It sounds incredibly frustrating and disheartening. Allison, what's on your mind this morning?
I think I just echo what Ashley is, explaining the sentiment that after, like you said, I'm 20 years in this marriage and I've seen one not a border bill, but a Senate bill pass and to not make it in the House. That was in 2013. And then here we are again with another opportunity. And it's just, the years are going by and, resolution is just it never really seems like it's coming. So, I think what Ashley said, missed opportunities to really help families, US citizen families, the system is supposed to work for us. We're citizens and fourth generation I am, and it just is incredulous to me that we can't find a fix for this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to
well,
jump
I
in.
was just gonna say, it feels like they're playing politics with our lives. We're American citizens and we're totally being shut out here. If this is an opportunity to prove that Republicans aren't serious on the border security, okay. But let's also prove how passionate they are about helping Americans like us who are stuck in this situation where we're living as second class citizens.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I wanted to dig a little deeper into without a resolution for mixed status families. I mean, there are obviously legal consequences for y'all. There are psychological consequences to have to kind of live in this balance. Um, what are some of these specific issues currently facing mixed status families? What does this lack of a resolution for years end up looking like on a daily basis in your lives?
Sure. Well, we have members with, I mean, stories all over the spectrum. We have people that are currently separated because of these laws, people who are going through the process and feel like they're following the rules and, doing things the right way. And I'm using air quotes when I say that because there really is no
Right.
right way. And, they get trapped outside of the country and there is no way for them to get back home to their family in America, their children that are here that are Americans, their spouse that are Americans. Those of us that are in the country, there is always that fear of like an unfriendly administration coming in, and we can't help but hear the rhetoric about mass detention camps and deportation roundups, and that has an impact on American citizens as well because our spouses fall into that category. And, I've had to answer some tough questions with my son who's turning 12. He's asked me like, is daddy going to be okay? What happens if he gets deported? And that's a really, really hard conversation to have with a child who lives in, the suburbs of America and has never had to deal with anything like this. It's really, really, really hard to digest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll add, I'm like I said, my children are grown almost adults that at any moment their father could be picked up. I mean, I can give one recent example of how this affected my, older children was my middle daughter is in college and we had to fill out the FAFSA form, which is a form that you complete for financial aid for college, something she's eligible for, and you have to complete at most universities, regardless of whether you want the financial aid or not. And we ran into a snafu with that because of my husband's lack of status. And literally, I was at the brink of, having to look at her and say, I don't know if I can, if we're going to be able to afford to send you back next year unless we've resolved this issue.
Yeah.
And that plagued millions of families this year. And it's in the news, it's in the headlines, but particularly mixed status families, because the minute that we fill out that form, as a US citizen, I complete it and it asks me for a social security number. I put mine in and it automatically kicks for my husband's.
Hmm.
And trying to resolve that was really, really difficult. And thankfully, we were able to ultimately, but it just, it's constantly a worry of when the next hurdle is going to pop out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
And if I can, I mean, like even things that you wouldn't think of. So applying for a mortgage, right? Like my husband couldn't be on our mortgage application, but he's allowed to be on the deed of our house. So I had to apply and qualify based on my own income. And that's hard in this market when you're trying to buy a home. Um, Also, like life insurance. My husband can't qualify for life insurance. God forbid something happens to him. What would, happen to me and my son? Health insurance. He can't qualify for health insurance, so he doesn't get to go to the doctor and have routine checkups. God forbid something were to happen to him, it would be horrible, a financial burden for our family. And it's literally splinters into every segment of your life that you don't realize. They can't volunteer at the children's schools, to be a soccer coach or, Boy Scout leader.
Yep.
Everything is impacted by this lack of status.
Yeah, it is so inhumane. And I think so many of these rights are things that also US citizens take for granted every single day as well. One of the things you kind of mentioned was around how the Biden administration, there is no compassionate angle of this legislation. It is solely focused on the border. And I feel like in recent months, as we get closer to the November election, Biden has been using increasingly dehumanizing language towards undocumented folks. And it just makes me think like with friends like these, you don't even need to have a Republican in office to have to deal with dehumanizing language and these policies that aren't compassionate. What kind of legislation would you like to see from the Biden administration and either other levels of government?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, we have a policy proposal before the Biden administration, where he could use his authority that already exists in certain policies to grant parole, which would be work permits and protection from deportation for the spouses that are here in the country. That is something he could do with the stroke of a pen. The other would be to expand the family reunification programs for people that are being brought in from other countries right now currently, but not helping the spouses that are stuck outside of the country. So, he has the opportunity to reunite families. This is a down payment for him to our families on a promise he's made, like he has done already with, the marijuana declassification,
Mm-hmm.
the student loan forgiveness. This is what we're waiting for, and people are getting frustrated. If he doesn't deliver for our American families, people are going to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
4 years so far with commitments and nothing delivered. We don't want to vote for Trump, obviously. They won't vote for Trump, but people are deflated and they're going to stay home. They're going to sit this election out. And that can cost him the election in really important states like Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan. We have families in all of those states. But on the other hand, like he has the opportunity to deliver work permits for our spouses, and that would motivate people to get out and vote. And Allison's three kids who are voting age, the 1.1 million US citizens who are married to someone in that situation would get out and vote. Um, it's a great opportunity right now for him to help people, but also to help himself. And that's what we're hoping to see.
Yeah,
And
definitely. I mean, yeah, Allison, please.
I just wanted to add to that you know, talking about the youth vote, my children are, two of them are voting age, one almost. He'll just miss the election, unfortunately, age-wise. But though they all have friends, you know, my extended family members, we all have people who are really invested in this and care, and they will vote accordingly to help my family and you know, to make sure that these measures are in. So I really think this is something that could help the vote for him. Remembering that these people will vote for something that helps families like ours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you both touched on the waning enthusiasm for Biden, especially among Gen Z voters. And this just seems like a really making good on a promise that one has said for years. Seems like a good way to reaffirm to folks that you are working on their behalf. On that note, I'm curious about how has the climate changed for your families from the Trump presidency to Biden? Can you talk a little bit more about what's at stake for your families with the November election? I mean, even keeping in mind that, there is waning enthusiasm and people really want to see Biden step up on this issue.
Yeah, I mean, we're scared. We're really scared because we know what a Trump presidency would mean. And we want to help Biden get reelected. And it's, not necessarily people making a decision between Biden and Trump. It's people being motivated to go out and vote for President Biden. So, the rhetoric has ratcheted up on both sides, really. Like you mentioned before, the dehumanizing language and the categorization of immigrants as criminals and job stealers and all this terrible stuff. Uh, but for us, it's our family members, and most of our friends and family just it perplexes them. Why is this happening to your husband? He's a great person. Why wouldn't the United States accept him and want him here to continue contributing? So we're worried. We're really worried. And I can speak for myself under the Trump administration. It was traumatic. Every single day, there was something about uh, a new um, a new thing happening within the communities where, people were being ripped apart, and it was like something new. Uh, Terrible happening, and it caused a lot of fear. I mean, we had know your rights cards taped to the back of our
Mm-hmm.
doors. We had packets of information in the car to prove that our spouse had been here for 10 years, and they had a connection to a US citizen in attempts to, like, hopefully if they got stopped by the police, you know have some sort of discretion there. Under the Biden administration, we've seen that there's been priorities in deportations. So obviously people that aren't criminals and do not have, mitigating circumstances that would put them in that pipeline are kind of left alone. But again, it's just this like gray area where we're living and hoping and waiting for a resolution, and it just hasn't come. And, it feels very, very defeating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, again, under the Trump administration, when Trump got elected, I'm in my 50s, and I never, you know, you vote for someone, and if they don't win, it's, you know, upsetting. But I sat in a parking lot that morning and cried over an election because I knew how significant that could be for my family and the policies he was talking about implementing. And my daughter was in third grade at the time, and I got a phone call from her
Oh,
elementary school saying that she was crying and that she had a stomach
oh.
ache, and she did not, and she wouldn't, you know, explain why she was so upset. And I knew immediately because she saw how upset I was on the way to drop her off at school that morning. But you know, you don't realize how these things affect your kids until you see it in plain sight like that. And I think to myself, now that they're, you know, she's an adult at this point, and you know, you think they're going to cope better, but really, are they? Does it ever really get better in terms of like how you handle these situations. And you, as a mom, you always care about how your kids are affected, regardless of age. So, yeah, I don't want to go through that time again where I'm taking things
Yeah.
to my door and having my husband carry papers
Yeah.
around. You know, it's just really scary.
Yeah, and kids like really absorb everything. I think that even if you feel like you're shielding them from stuff, like they pick it up. Like they
Yeah.
pick up what's going on with the election and everything. I got a tweet from a listener, GR Singh, who says, to me, it sounds like Biden is playing politics so that he can win the election. And then after he wins, he can do whatever he wants. I mean, have y'all heard anything from the Biden administration where they're saying anything to the effect of just let us win and then we'll do something? Does that feel like it would be a hollow promise at this point after you've been waiting for so long?
I mean, we haven't heard just let us win. I think the answer there is we've had really great communication with the administration, with the agencies. We know that they really understand the issue, and there is a true belief that they're looking to help us. But I want to say that um, he might not win if he doesn't do this.
Right, right.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's him saying it or us saying it to him, but realistically, I think the polling speaks for itself on this issue. People are motivated to vote for someone who is going to help families like ours.
And on that note, we have time for one more quick question. Can you just tell us a little bit more about America Families United, the work that you're doing, and where folks can get engaged?
Yeah, thank you for that. We have been an organization, all volunteers, no one gets paid, just impacted people since 2006. We had our first legislation introduced in 2013. So we've been fighting for over a decade for families just like ours, where we have always had a bipartisan bill in the House. We're hoping to get a companion bill in the Senate at some point. Because really the root of this needs to be solved with congressional legislation. But we know that Congress just can't agree on anything. And it's been really, really difficult, like I said, over a decade trying to make inroads. So, now we've pivoted to this administrative relief where we believe President Biden can deliver significant help for families like ours. And we're just going to keep pushing because there are too many families suffering right now. So, if folks want to get involved, they can find us on AmericanFamiliesUnited.org. We host a weekly call every Monday night with updates for anyone who's interested, and there's lots of volunteer opportunities. We're also on social media on all of the platforms under American Families United. And we'd love to have more people there in the growing chorus of supporters.
Well, Ashley and Allyson, thank you so much for taking the time to join me this morning.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
So
We are going to take a quick break and we'll